Discover the incredible untold stories of the 1918 flu pandemic that changed lives forever. In the small Midwestern town of Maple Grove, life turned upside down in an instant. The sharp scent of fresh corn mingled with the metallic tang of fear as the 1918 flu pandemic swept through like an unforgiving storm. Families huddled away, the laughter that once echoed down the dirt roads replaced by whispers of grief and uncertainty. In this turmoil, Samuel, a humble farmer with calloused hands and a heart full of care, worried every day about his wife, Margaret. A devoted nurse at the local hospital, she rushed to help those who fell ill, all the while putting her own health on the line. He watched her go, wearing a mask that did little to ease his fears, as though it could shield her from the shadows that loomed around them. As days turned into weeks, the sickness stole the lives of friends and neighbors, leaving behind hollow eyes and aching hearts. There were moments when Samuel looked out over his cornfields, the golden stalks swaying gently in the breeze, wishing it could drown out the desperate cries from the hospital. He felt like a fortress besieged, standing firm but terrified of the tides of sickness threatening to breach his walls. And then there was Lucy, their spirited teenage daughter with dreams of education and a world far beyond the horizon. Each passing day, however, those dreams dimmed under the weight of reality. School was no longer a certainty, and Samuel could see the fire in her eyes flickering as hopes slipped further away. He couldn't bear to see the spark fade in his brave girl. With worry gnawing at his insides, he longed to provide her with the future she deserved. But it felt increasingly out of reach as more families crumbled under the strain of the pandemic. Just when the darkness clouded Samuel's thoughts, Lucy decided to step back into the light. Gathering her friends, she called for a meeting at the old barn, where hallowed memories of laughter still lingered. "We can't just stand by," she declared, passion bubbling over. "We need to help our neighbors. Let us organize a fundraiser." Samuel felt pride swell in his chest, but it was met with skepticism by some, who doubted the resolve of the youth and clung to their prejudices. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue with Lucy leading the charge. Samuel knew their town needed to awaken from its slumber of ignorance. He stepped forward, confronting the town leaders with conviction as he recounted stories of loss and resilience. "This isn't just a city's crisis," he exclaimed, voice breaking under the weight of emotion. The truth buried deep within the hearts of the townsfolk began to stir. As more listened, the rising tide of understanding swept away some shadows of long-held biases. But just when it seemed a flicker of hope might brighten the community's path, the fear of change tightened its grip. Farmers like Samuel, who had given their all, now stood at a crossroads, facing the loud whispers of those unwilling to embrace unity. All eyes were on Lucy as she navigated a choice that could alter the course of her future forever. Would she follow the path forged by her heart, or retreat into silence when her voice was needed the most? The air electric with anticipation held the answer just out of reach. The barn echoed with nervous laughter and murmurs as Lucy stood in front of her friends, their faces lit by the fading afternoon sunlight filtering through cracks in the wood. She felt the weight of their gazes, some filled with admiration, others tinged with doubt. Her heart raced with excitement and fear. This fundraiser could mean hope, not just for their own families but for everyone in Maple Grove. "Let us gather donations from everyone," she proposed, her voice steady. "Food, clothing, anything we can sell or give away. And we'll use my father's land to host a fair. We can have games, food stalls, music. It'll bring everyone together." Sam, a tall boy with thick glasses, shook his head. "But what if no one comes? People are scared. They're not thinking about fun." Lucy frowned, frustration rising. "That's exactly why we need to do this. We can't let fear keep us locked away. We need to show that we care and that we're still here for each other. As she spoke, she noticed Samuel leaning against a post, arms crossed, listening intently. His rugged face, marred with worry lines, softened slightly. He stepped forward, the creaking wood under his boots quieting the chatter. "Lucy's right," he said, taking in the group. "I've seen how this disease has changed us, but we can't let it take away our spirit too. We need to remind this town that we can rise from this." His voice held a steady resolve that seemed to shift the mood, filling the room with a renewed sense of determination. "But what if they think we're foolish?" One girl spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then we show them the strength in our community," Samuel replied. "No more hiding. We stand together or we fall apart. Which do we want?" Lucy's heart swelled at her father's words. This was more than just a fundraiser. It was a challenge to face the darkness head-on. Inspired, the group began to brainstorm more ideas. Even small children offered to bake cookies, while others suggested organizing games. The energy sparked like wildfire, igniting hope where there had been discouragement. As plans took shape, a figure emerged from the outside, casting a long shadow through the barn door. It was Margaret, her face pale beneath the mask. As a nurse, she'd grown accustomed to bearing heavy weights, but her exhaustion seemed to overflow now. The corner of her mouth turned upward, a brief smile, but she was clearly struggling. "Lucy," she called out softly, her voice barely making it over the chatter. "I need to speak with you." The room moved in a hush, as Lucy stepped forward, concern rushing through her. "What is it, Mom?" Margaret hesitated, gripping her medical bag tightly. "It's about the hospital. There's a need for volunteers. People willing to help." She lowered her voice, "Just for Lucy. We're running out of supplies, and I'm afraid of what that means." The weight of her mother's words struck like a thunderclap. Lucy's heart sank for a moment, fear gripping her. The fundraiser now seemed to carry an even greater importance than she originally thought. It wasn't just about spirit anymore. It was about survival. She glanced back at Samuel, who had approached Margaret, measuring the tension in the room. "Let us do both," he said, his voice firm. "We can raise funds and supplies. It'll show the town that we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for each other." Lucy felt a surge of determination. What started as a small idea for fun quickly transformed into a lifeline. She took a deep breath, ready to embrace the challenge. "We'll organize a collection for the hospital at the fair," she declared, eyes shining with purpose. A murmur of agreement spread through the group as Lucy faced the walls of the barn, her vision clear. But lurking behind the hope, she felt doubt prickling at the edges of her enthusiasm. Could a small fundraiser really make a difference in the face of such overwhelming grief and panic? As the sunlight began to dim, Lucy made a silent vow. She would do everything in her power to lift her family and her town out of despair. The challenge now stood in front of them, flickering but bright, the stakes higher than anyone could have imagined. But as they moved forward, one thought lingered. Would the community answer the call? Would they trust in each other? Or would fear paralyze them? The answers were hidden just beyond the horizon, waiting to unfold. The next morning, the sun filtered through the curtains in Lucy's small bedroom, painting everything in warm, golden tones. Her heartbeat was steady, but a rhythm of urgency pulsed beneath it. The weight of the fundraiser and her mother's revelation loomed large in her mind. As she dressed, she resolved to carry that hope in her heart. This day could be different. She'd seen strength in her friends, and now it was time to put those plans into action. With determination, she left her house, feeling the cool morning air fresh against her skin. At the barn, Lucy was greeted by the familiar sight of her friends buzzing with excitement. They arranged tables, while others thrashed about sorting items for donation. The atmosphere crackled as laughter erupted and children chased each other, their carefree spirits lifting the heaviness of the past days. "Lucy, look at these." Sam held up a pair of glittering homemade decorations. They sparkled even in the faint morning light. She smiled, realizing how her little idea had galvanized not just her friends, but the whole spirit of the community. But as they gathered supplies, the shadow of dread still lingered. Lucy's thoughts darted back to her mother's worried expression, and Margaret's voice echoed in her mind. "We're running out of supplies." Anxiety curled itself around her thoughts, but she pushed it aside, focusing on what they could achieve together. The sound of an approaching vehicle broke her concentration. A pickup truck rolled into the barnyard, and Lucy felt her stomach twist. It was Mr. Thompson, the local butcher. He stepped out, wiping his hands on a clean apron. "Lucy," he called, tipping his hat. "I heard about the fair and thought I could pitch in." He hoisted a cooler from the truck bed. "Fresh meats for the barbecue. And I brought some extras for the hospital drive." The crowd went silent, eyes wide, before erupting into cheers. Lucy's heart soared. This was how they would win. Community members were beginning to trust each other again. As she approached Mr. Thompson, a thought struck her. What about the vendors? Should we reach out to more people? "Absolutely," he replied. "The more people know, the more they want to help. This town might be scared, but at heart we all want to contribute." In that moment, a flicker of a plan ignited. With a wave of gratitude, Lucy gathered her closest friends. "Let us create flyers. We'll deliver them all over town," knocking on doors, getting people excited. They split off in teams, the thrill of revolution pushing them forward. Every knock felt like a challenge against the lingering shadows of despair. As they moved through the streets, smiles broke out on faces that had been dimmed by worry. Yet, a sinking feeling remained. For every eager response, there were whispers of those who still feared venturing out. Lucy felt the weight of discontent. Late in the evening, she returned to the barn, filled with the day's energy. But she could still see apprehension in Samuel's eyes. "Lucy, what if our efforts go in vain? What if we set everything up and no one shows?" Those words cut deeper than she expected. Standing there, she faced the truth. What if they did this all for nothing? But then her resolve lit up again. "Even if a few come, we'll make a difference, Samuel. We have to believe in the spark of hope we're creating. We do this together." Samuel nodded slowly, though his brow still furrowed. As twilight enveloped the barn, Lucy took a moment to breathe deeply, inhaling the blend of sweat, effort, and anticipation that filled the air. In the depths of her heart, a fire awakened. But as night closed in, doubt crept in like a chill wind. What if, despite their best efforts, the fear would eclipse their hope? Could they truly unite a town torn apart by uncertainty? With those worries swirling in her mind, she looked at the barn under the stars, bright but distant, and all she could think was, would tomorrow bring the courage they sought, or would it unravel their dreams? Morning broke with a hesitant light, and Lucy woke up with the weight of the world pressing down on her chest. She could hear the chattering of the morning birds outside her window, but their cheerful songs felt distant compared to the storm of thoughts swirling in her mind. As she threw on her clothes, she grappled with her fear. Today was the day of the fundraiser, the day they needed to harness all their hopes and dreams. Arriving at the barn felt almost surreal. It was a cacophony of laughter and chatter. Her friends were setting up, but Lucy noticed a hesitance hanging in the air. She plastered on her best smile, waving to Tara and Jacob sorting through the booth items. The sight filled her with a blend of pride and worry. "Lucy, we need you over here," Tara called, waving her hands animatedly over a pile of books. Lucy dashed over, heart racing as she tried to shake off the doubt that had nestled into her bones. Each familiar face reminded her of their shared dreams, but she could still sense the underlying currents of fear. "Can you help us organize the donations?" Tara asked, her voice bubbling with energy despite the tension. "Sure. Let us make it look great," Lucy responded, forcing enthusiasm into her words. As they grouped items together, old clothes, toys, and baked goods, she tried to fill the gaps with humor and laughter, trying to inject a sense of normalcy into the chaos. But every giggle felt like a thin layer of ice over the deep waters of uncertainty. Lucy glanced around, noticing groups huddled together, whispers floating like feathers against the cool morning air. Some smiles were flat, eyes darting toward refreshment stands but rarely lingering. Then, unexpectedly, the door creaked open and Margaret entered, eyes scanning the barn. When she saw Lucy, her brow slightly furrowed. "Can we talk?" Lucy followed her outside, trying to read the expression on her friend's face. When they were alone, Margaret leaned in. "I overheard some folks talking. They're still worried about coming out. The fear hasn't totally lifted." The truth hit Lucy hard. "I know, but they have to see what we're creating. This could be the turning point for all of us. We just need one moment." She spoke earnestly, heart pounding. Margaret's gaze softened, and Lucy could see the determination rising within her too. "What if we share some stories? Remind them of what we've gone through together? The town needs a connection again." That flicker of a plan bloomed in Lucy's mind. "Yes, people love stories. We can ask everyone to share their memories. The good ones, the ones that make us feel whole again." As the rest of the day unfolded, they sat together, drafting a list of stories to share on the big day. Lucy's heart lightened. The spark of community began to ignite again. But as evening fell, the nerves returned. She glanced at Tara, who was stacking decorations on a table. What if no one shows up to share their stories? Tara looked at her, eyes filled with understanding. "But if a few come, they'll inspire others. And if we connect even a fraction of our town, it'll matter." The thought echoed in Lucy's heart. Perhaps the real magic lay in the connections they could reignite, no matter how small. Yet a nagging worry remained. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows, the enormity of what they were trying to do felt incredible. Could they truly breathe life into a community that felt so lost? With the silence of the barn wrapping around her, Lucy felt the weight of hope and uncertainty press against her heart, all in equal measure. With every breath, she whispered a prayer to the stars above. Would this be the moment they all needed? Or would fear dim their light once more? The night settled in, wrapping the barn in a gentle darkness, illuminated only by strands of twinkling lights strung above. Lucy stood by the entrance, her heart thumping like a drum. The anticipation was palpable. She could hear snippets of laughter and whispers from those inside, but the deeper part of her began to drown out the noise, replaced by thoughts of what might go wrong. "Are we ready?" Tara's voice cut through Lucy's haze. She turned to see her friend, hands on hips, radiating a mixture of excitement and worry. "As ready as we can be," Lucy replied, forcing a brave smile. But inside, her stomach twisted. Each face she'd seen in the crowd earlier felt like a ticking clock, counting down to the moment they would either step through the threshold or hold back in fear. Margaret joined them moments later, her expression serious but kind. "People are starting to arrive. They're looking for that connection. We need to meet them with warmth." Before Lucy could respond, the barn door swung open, and a cluster of familiar faces stepped inside. Old neighbors, childhood friends, and even those she hadn't seen in years trickled in, their eyes scanning the room. She breathed in deeply, reminding herself of the stories they intended to share. With each heartwarming reunion, the atmosphere shifted. Voices began to intertwine, laughter dissipating the lingering tension. Lucy noticed two elderly ladies, Rose and Belle, taking a seat near the front, their fingers intertwined over a shared memory. Her heart surged as she imagined the stories they carried. "Okay, let us kick things off," Tara shouted, stepping onto a small crate to get everyone's attention. "We want to welcome you all and share something special tonight. Each one of us has a story that deserves to be heard." Lucy lingered in the back, her gaze flickering to every face in the room. Would they all feel moved enough to share their pieces of history like she had planned? Anxiety gnawed at her, but as people began to nod and smile, something shifted in the air. "Let us start with Lucy." Tara's voice rang out, pulling Lucy from her thoughts. The spotlight of eyes turned toward her, and she almost sank into the ground. Clearing her throat, Lucy took a step forward, feeling as if she'd just leapt into the deep end. "I'm here tonight because I believe in the power of our stories, in the strength of our community." Words began to spill out, telling her tale of loss, hope, and the very moments that had brought them to this gathering. She could see a ripple of understanding in the crowd. Eyes softened, nods exchanged. There was something sacred in sharing vulnerability, and as she spoke, she could feel the atmosphere transform into something electric. One by one, the stories poured out. Each voice was a thread, weaving together a tapestry of lives lived, moments cherished, and shared hardships. The barn, once a mere structure of wood and hay, became a sanctuary of shared experiences. As the night continued, a couple of children from the neighborhood stood up, inspired by their parents' bravery. That's when the unexpected happened. They began to recount a story from school about kindness, a simple act that changed a classmate's life. The laughter erupted, and the audience leaned in, connecting with innocence and hope. In that moment, Lucy's worry began to peel away, replaced by a growing realization that they had started something truly beautiful. Yet just as she began to believe they had lit a spark, she felt a sudden chill sweep through the barn. Across the room, she caught sight of a figure lingering by the door. It was Peter, known for his aloofness, someone who had been closed off following the tragedy that struck a few months back. Her heart raced again. Would he dare to join them? Would he share his story? Or would he remain in that shadowed corner? And just like that, everything hinged on his next move. Would he step into the light or retreat back into the darkness? Lucy's gaze remained fixed on Peter, her breath caught in her throat. The laughter that had once filled the barn now hung in the thick air, suspended between expectation and uncertainty. Moments felt like hours as Peter glanced around, his expression unreadable. The crowd began to quiet, sensing the weight of the moment. Tara noticed too and stepped down from the crate, urging the atmosphere to flow smoothly. Let us keep sharing. Remember, everyone's voice is important. But Lucy couldn't shake off the restless energy vibrating around Peter. He shifted on his feet, turning slightly, yet something held him back, something deep and painful. Come on, Peter, she whispered, almost to herself. She remembered the old stories they had shared, once so easy and light, how laughter flowed effortlessly before life became too heavy. Then, in one decisive motion, Peter took a tentative step forward. Silence fell again, but this time it was tinged with hope. Lucy's heart pounded as he moved from the shadows into the warm glow of the lights. Hi, everyone. His voice was quiet but clear, resonating through the hushed barn. I wasn't sure I could do this. His eyes darted across the room, and he swallowed hard. But after hearing the stories tonight, something clicked. We're all feeling the weight of these moments. Lucy felt her own heartbeat harmonize with his words. A rhythm of shared struggle and vulnerability was forming. I lost my brother a few months ago, Peter continued, his voice a fragile thread of emotion. He was my best friend. We shared everything. He paused, tears glistening at the corners of his eyes. I thought I could just bottle it up, that I could be strong for everyone else. The crowd leaned in closer, eyes glossy from their own memories emerging. Lucy could feel the air thicken with empathy. But that's not how it works, is it? He said softly. Keeping it inside just hurts more. We have to share. As he spoke, she saw small heads nodding throughout the room. Even the children who had shared their innocent stories earlier seemed to understand the weight of his words now. Peter took a deep breath and pressed on. He would have wanted me to talk. He wanted everyone to know that we're not alone in our pain. The story matters even when it's hard to tell. In that moment, something shifted again. Lucy could feel it resonate among the people gathered. They were no longer mere spectators in this barn but part of an unfolding narrative, a living tapestry of grief, joy, and connection. As Peter's voice trailed off, he stepped back into the audience, emotions raw and on display. Applause broke out, and people rose to their feet, honoring his bravery with their appreciation. The glow in the room intensified, illuminated by shared acceptance. The evening spiraled into a kaleidoscope of voices. More stories erupted, each a burst of color against the deep backdrop of grief. Lucy felt herself caught in a joy that seemed to elevate even the unspoken pain. A few voices more vulnerable emerged. Some spoke of loss like Peter, Others expressed love, persevering through hardships. Each tale linked with the one before, forging an even deeper bond among all. But as laughter and tears intertwined, Lucy felt a familiar pang in her chest, a notion that this night wasn't just about stories of the past, but also the seeds planted for the future. She met Tara's gaze. Their unspoken agreement solidified. As the last story wrapped up, a hush fell again. That when one of the children, a little girl with pigtails named Sophie, stood, eyes wide. "Can we tell the story of how we all helped Mr. Thompson?" Cheers erupted, but the surprise came when Peter tilted his head, a smile creeping in. "Maybe that story is the one we all need to hear next." Could they cultivate this newfound connection into something that lingered long after this night? Would they dare to delve even deeper? Lucy clenched her fists, feeling the flutter of possibilities flutter through the air around her. But one truth resonated louder than all the others. Every story deserved to be shared, just as every heart deserves to heal. Sophie's request hung in the air like wisps of cotton candy, sweet, fuzzy, and inviting. The anticipation rippled through the barn as everyone turned to look at the little girl beaming with enthusiasm. Lucy felt it too, that magical blend of hope and community growing under the barn's old wooden beams. In that moment, something shifted. This was a chance for connection that everyone craved. "Mr. Thompson," Sophie's voice rang out, powerful for someone so small. "He lives down the street. He is super nice and helps everyone with their gardens." Tara moved forward, embracing the spirit of the moment. "I think that's a wonderful idea. Sophie, who wants to share the story of how we all came together to help Mr. Thompson?" Hands shot up like stars sparking in a night sky, each person eager to share snippets of their experience, small and large. Lucy's heart swelled. Each story was like a thread weaving a tapestry of community spirit. "Mr. Thompson couldn't take care of his roses anymore," a boy named Ethan exclaimed. "We all went together to pick them so they wouldn't die." Laughter bubbled up as others chimed in. "And then we planted new flowers," another girl added, her eyes twinkling with joy. "He was so happy. He gave us lemonade." Lucy could see how much this meant to everyone. The atmosphere in the barn transformed, filling with warmth and light. Peter smiled, his earlier vulnerability giving way to sheer joy. This was the power of community, the way they all stepped in to lend a hand, to ease Mr. Thompson's burden. "Remember that day when we made soup?" Lucy added, catching a glimpse of Tara's encouraging nod. "We all brought ingredients and cooked it together. Everyone shared their favorite recipes. Yeah. And we delivered it to him in those big mugs." Ethan chimed in, laughter erupting again as they all recalled the silly incident of soup spilling in the back of the truck. "Mr. Thompson said it was the best soup he ever had." Sophie giggled, her cheeks rosy with excitement. As they continued to recall every detail, the smiles, the teamwork, the laughter, the air thickened with a sense of belonging. It became clear that every small act flowed into something bigger. They were all part of the story, woven through with threads of kindness and hope. But just as the stories began to swell into a beautiful crescendo, a sudden quietness fell upon the room. Lucy noticed Peter's expression shift again, curiosity sparking in his eyes. What if he started hesitating? What if we could do something like that again? Something even bigger? The room held its breath, emotions dancing in the air. Ideas spun like a whirlwind. They could host community dinners, organize cleanups, even set up a neighborhood garden to grow food together. Lucy felt a swell of excitement. What they had done for Mr. Thompson could be a blueprint for something remarkable, not just a memory. But echoes of Peter's question lingered. Would they have the courage to step forward, to nurture what they created that evening? As conversations erupted again, buzzing with possibilities, Lucy leaned closer to Tara. "This could change everything." "Yeah," Tara whispered back, eyes shining. "But it all starts with keeping the stories alive." And as the night pressed on, Lucy realized the weight of their collective journey began to form a beautiful tapestry of hope. But buried in the warmth of shared stories was an unsettling thought lingering in her mind. Were they ready to share their own stories, deep, personal stories that molded who they were today? As laughter echoed through the barn, Lucy's heart raced with a mix of excitement and fear. What would they uncover about themselves if they dared to delve deeper into their own lives? Just like Peter had. The barn buzzed with excitement, ideas sparking like fireworks on a summer night. Lucy felt her heart pound, feeling the weight of anticipation mixing with nervous energy. The suggestion of vulnerability, of sharing deeper stories, loomed larger with each excited voice around her. She wanted to join in on this wave of inspiration, yet fear tugged at her, anchoring her to the ground. "Let us plan a community dinner then," Sophie cheered, her innocence lighting up the dim barn. "We can all bring our favorite foods and share more stories." Everyone nodded in agreement, but Lucy's gaze wandered to Peter, who wore a thoughtful expression. He was the one who had initiated this, the question that dared to peel back the layers of connection they had started to build. What had spurred him to consider something bigger, something more personal? "Maybe we could share something important about ourselves during dinner, too," he offered, voice firm but hesitant. "Like the time I felt really alone but then found support from all of you. It made me realize how connected we truly are." A ripple of understanding passed through the barn, faces transforming from bubbling joy to solemn recognition. They weren't just sharing fun moments anymore. They were about to break barriers. Tara glanced at Lucy, her eyes wide, as if silently asking, "Are you ready for this?" The weight of sincerity filled the air, but instead of fear, Lucy felt a flicker of encouragement. Yes, it was scary to dig into those parts of themselves that felt rough or unpolished, but wasn't that the very essence of true connection? "I know I have a story like that," Tara spoke gently, but her voice held strength. "There was a time I felt lost after moving here. I thought I wouldn't belong. Then, little by little, you all became my family." The room was quiet, and Lucy sensed the love radiating from everyone. They weren't just acquaintances anymore. They were a family, stitched together by shared struggles and victories. Encouraged by Tara's bravery, Lucy took a breath. "I could share about when my mom was sick last year. It was tough for me, feeling really alone, but you all showed up. The meals, the hugs, even the little things, you have no idea how much they meant." A wave of empathy washed over the group. Tears glimmered in some eyes and the atmosphere felt electric, a pulse of genuine connection that had rarely been shared out loud before. "Yes," Ethan croaked, wiping a tear from his cheek. "We can all do this. Share the hard stuff and the happy stuff. It makes us real." The energy shifted back to excitement as ideas flowed even more freely now. They could prepare a dish that reflected their stories, something that was meaningful. And in that kitchen, they would not only feed their bodies but also nourish their spirits by indulging in vulnerability. "Let us make it a potluck of stories," Sophie squealed, her enthusiasm infectious. "Just like we helped Mr. Thompson. Stories that show what really matters." Lucy felt lighter, buoyed by the rush of creativity and the acceptance each person offered. This was more than just a dinner now. It was a celebration of their journey, a chance to come together and be truly seen. As plans were drawn up, smiles reappeared, laughter rang like bells, and hope twinkled in each pair of eyes. But within Lucy's heart was a growing curiosity: what else would emerge from this sharing? What truths lay buried in the stories of her friends? And how would that change the fabric of their community? The night was still young, and their choice to connect could unravel more layers yet. What unspoken truths would they discover together? The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. The barn was a hive of excitement as each member of the community dove into preparations for the potluck dinner. Lucy watched with growing anticipation, the scent of something new bubbling in the air, something more profound than just a gathering over food. As Sophie organized the seating chart, Lucy struggled to choose what she would bring. She wanted to share something meaningful, something that encapsulated her journey and her mother's bravery. When she finally decided on her grandmother's famous chicken pot pie, she felt a wave of warmth wash over her. That dish was more than just comfort food. It held memories of laughter, family, and the unyielding strength that had guided her through dark times. On the day of the dinner, the barn transformed into a tapestry of scents and colors. Banners strung up from every beam, handmade by Sophia, fluttered like jubilant flags. The long wooden tables were laden with dishes, each plate a story waiting to be shared. As the sun began to set, casting warm golden light into the barn, Lucy's nerves kicked in again. She ran her fingers down the seams of her dress, glancing around at the familiar faces now illuminated by warm candlelight. They all looked eager and nervous in equal measure. Was everyone else feeling the weight of what was to come? Peter stood by the front, his voice resonating through the barn as he welcomed everyone. "I'm so glad we could all come together like this, to share not just food, but the parts of ourselves we don't always show." His sincerity hung in the air, and Lucy held her breath. As everyone settled down to eat, laughter bubbled up like a happy melody. Sophie started. "This is my special secret pasta recipe, passed down through generations." The way she spoke lit up the room, and Lucy found herself smiling easily. Story by story, each person opened up. Ethan, with tears in his eyes, shared how he had once been bullied in school. It was the support of this very group that had helped him heal. Each confession pulled them closer together, weaving threads of trust and honesty into a beautiful patchwork cloth of friendship. Then Tara, with a quiver in her voice, recounted memories of how she had struggled with a big move, feeling isolated until she found a home in this community. Her bravery ignited a spark in Lucy, a longing to share her own truths. When the time finally came for her to speak, Lucy felt the warmth of the candlelight flickering on her face, the room holding their breath with anticipation. A deep inhale filled her lungs before she began. "My grandmother made this chicken pot pie for my family every Sunday. It was more than just a meal. It was our gathering point, where we shared stories and laughter." As her words flowed, the memories of her mother bubbled up, memories that had been tucked away for too long. "After I lost her, I felt so alone. But each of you found a way to reach me, to remind me I wasn't." Tears cascaded down her cheeks, but she didn't try to hide them. "You gave me back hope." The barn was silent for a moment, the weight of her words sinking deep into their hearts. Then, a gentle applause broke out, filling her with a mixture of relief and gratitude. They were all learning that vulnerability wasn't a weakness. It was a bridge to deeper connections. As conversation flowed again after her honesty, Lucy witnessed the new stories unfolding. They were all woven together now, entwined. But even amidst the laughter, a heavy thought lingered in the corners of her mind. What else had been forgotten in the shadows? What stories had pulled at the community's heartstrings, waiting to be uncovered? As her gaze drifted around the barn, an unspoken challenge hung in the air. Could they push even further? What secrets did everyone still hold close, waiting for the right moment to surface? The night was alive, but the deeper truths remained unspoken. Would they dare to plunge into darker waters? Or was the light of their new understanding enough for now? The mystery hung just out of reach, tantalizing and ripe for exploration. As the last echoes of laughter faded into the twilight, the atmosphere in the barn shifted. It was as if the stories shared began to create waves, washing away the remnants of fear and doubt that had long lingered in Maple Grove. But deep within Lucia's heart, a yearning for more lingered, an urge to dig deeper, to peel back the layers of connection even further. The night pressed forward, bursting with warmth and brightness, a living testament to their resilience. Families nestled together, faces illuminated by the soft glow of lanterns. And in that moment, Lucy felt a bond that shimmered like golden threads woven through fabric. Yet, the murmur of unspoken emotions beneath the surface sent a chill through her spine. She looked at her friends, their expressions relaxed but still smeared with hesitation. They shared personal stories, connected through their struggles and laughter. But the truth was, many still carried burdens that had yet to be unveiled. Could they dive even deeper? Were they ready to explore those raw, tangled emotions together? With a determined heart, Lucy stood once more. "Can we keep sharing? We've opened our hearts tonight. And what if digging down into our real struggles can create even more light?" A momentary silence settled over the barn, everyone absorbing her words. But even that silence buzzed with a hint of apprehension. Then Peter leaned forward, confidence shining through his vulnerability. I think Lucy's right. Let us take this a step further. We owe it to ourselves and each other. We've braved the shadows. We can walk through whatever comes next. His words ignited a fire, sparking nods and murmurs of agreement. Lucy observed, the warmth of hope swelling within her, and as she scanned the faces around her, she could see the flicker of courage in their eyes, flickering but real. Okay, Tara said quietly, her voice trembling yet alive with conviction. I'll go first, I guess. With a steadiness that transformed into a radiant glow, she began to share. Tara opened up about feeling lost after the death of her grandmother, how she sometimes questioned her worth and felt like a ghost among the living. The room stood enraptured as she spoke, tears shimmering down her cheeks, but their atmosphere dulled with understanding. Then, Lucy took a breath, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. When I lost my mom, I thought I lost everything, she said, words flowing from her heart. Each day felt heavier, and I was trapped in a fog of sorrow. Felt like I was fighting against the world alone. You all reached out, pulled me back. I wasn't lost anymore. Because of you. Those words seemed to break open something raw. Faces around her softened. Whispers of empathy floated through the barn like a sweet breeze, wrapping around them all. As one after another, courage unfurled like petals in spring, stories began to rise, shedding light on deeper wounds. Others revealed tales of lingering grief, unfulfilled dreams, and the heavy burdens of lost loved ones. There was a sharing of experiences that resonated far beyond the words, spoken a raw honesty that seemed to weave an unbreakable bond between everyone present. Lucy could feel each heartbeat among them, a synchronized rhythm creating a tapestry of strength woven from discourse, memories, and a rekindled purpose. They transformed from mere acquaintances to guardians of each other's stories, united in hope and vulnerability. But as the words flowed, a humble shadow slipped into the barn. Margaret. The sight of her mother's worried but supportive smile shimmered through the layers of darkness. They faced together. Lucy's heart raced with a mix of trepidation and a bubbling excitement. Would they take this moment to create something beautiful beyond their shared stories? Mom, Lucy called, her voice breaking with joy. Join us. Share with us what you've been feeling. Margaret hesitated, but the encouragement in the air wrapped around her like a soft blanket. I've battled my own fears, she began, stepping forward, her voice a soothing balm as it flowed. She spoke of the despair she felt at the hospital, overwhelmed by the suffering she saw every day. It was hard to remain hopeful sometimes, to see the light when the darkness felt so prevalent. The room was wrapped in silence as her voice spread through the barn like sunshine after winter, illuminating the distant corners. But coming here tonight and seeing all of you give everything for each other, I finally felt like maybe, just maybe, there was still hope. And it made me remember that even in darkness, we can find the light if we search together. In that moment, a clarity washed over Lucy. They weren't just promising to rise from shadows. They were embedding new roots for the future. This night had pierced through layers of uncertainty, expanding beyond their individual stories into a connected vision of what their community could truly become. As the evening continued, laughter intertwined with tears, a sweet cacophony that forged new memories and opened doors to uncharted territory. They dared to discuss future plans, dreams for the town, and ways to keep lifting each other up. And just like that, a spark turned into a flame. The barn transformations echoed like a heartbeat, distinct enough to be felt across the town of Maple Grove. Under the starlit sky, Lucy realized they were no longer living in the shadow of loss. They were discovering a powerful, new identity that shimmered with community spirit and unwavering love. The question swirled. What else would they accomplish together? Where would the light guide them next? As night enveloped them, Lucy felt a wave of gratitude for this moment, for the shared stories that had stitched them closer together. They weren't holding on to fear anymore. They were blooming into something vibrant, alive, a resilient family forged through struggle, forged by love. Let us keep this going. We're just getting started. Lucy beamed, her heart full, surrounded by the community she cherished. Once they began to share their lives, their true selves, they would become unstoppable. They held each other's stories gently, like precious flowers that deserved to be nurtured and cherished. Here, surrounded by warmth, courage, and hope, a new dawn dawned upon Maple Grove, a town that would thrive, united by love, ready to face whatever would come together. If you resonated with this transformation and want to witness more stories that inspire and uplift, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss a single moment of exclusive content. And while you're at it, leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support matters. Don't forget to comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support for the channel. Let us keep the stories alive. Don't wait not even one more second to share.